The Miami Heat have a golden opportunity going forward, a opportunity to really turn the corner and really turn the page following the ending and really the second half of this NBA season. Welcome back to Heat Digest. I'm Houston, and we're going to be breaking down the golden opportunity that the Miami Heat have and really how they can turn that corner following the second half of this NBA season that really didn't treat them all that well. Again, we'll break down all of that on this episode of Heat Digest. But first, before we get to the news and information, if you're a part of the 85.5% currently watching this video, not currently subscribed to the channel, and you want to stay up to date on everything Miami Heat, scroll down and click the subscribe button. We do appreciate all the love and support. So again, thank you guys. But now let's get to it and break down where to go from here for Miami. Now, the start of this season and the second half of the season were two drastically different, really pieces for this Miami Heat team. And what do I mean by that? Well, obviously the Jimmy Butler situation went on up until about the halfway point, the February 6th NBA trade deadline, where obviously Butler was then shipped to Golden State in exchange for an ample amount of goods back to Miami, including Andrew Wiggins as well as others. And again, despite acquiring Andrew Wiggins and those other guys in that transaction for Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat still struggled in the second half of the NBA season. And again, this is the schedule and the results following that schedule post the February 6th NBA trade deadline, where the Miami Heat found themselves going 7-21 over that stretch of games, which again, obviously is not going to get the job done in a competitive conference, let alone the Eastern Conference, which again isn't the best conference by any means, as the Western Conference was dominant this year. But again, the Miami Heat find themselves in the final play-in spot available in the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference, coming in the third place spot, and let alone in their division, in the Southeastern Division, behind both Orlando and the Atlanta Hawks. Again, a very subpar season for this Miami Heat team, but again, they have an opportunity to go out there and turn the corner and really advance in the playoffs and take down the Chicago Bulls, who are the next game for this Miami Heat team, again, in the first round of the play-in tournament. Now, we have to acknowledge last night's loss, the Game 82 loss for this Miami Heat team, as again, they lost their final game of the season against the Washington Wizards. Now, I will say they were down substantially in this game for some time, but they were able to battle back and ended up losing by one on a buzzer beater, which was a horse type of shot, if you will. Something that you throw up in the playground. You don't get a whistle called, obviously, and it still ends up going in, and you have some bragging rights for the time being. And that's what happened last night, as the Miami Heat had a great performance last night from Jaime Jaquez Jr., who scored 41 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists on 17 of 25 shooting and 5 of 7 shooting from the free throw line. And the best performance from Jaquez in his very young career up to this point. Obviously, you guys do remember the game where he did perform extremely well with Dwayne Wade in attendance, but it was cut short due to a hamstring injury, I believe, or a calf injury earlier this season. But again, the point is the same. Jaquez came out and showed out, as well as Keyshawn Johnson came out and played very, very well. Someone that I was very high on when he went undrafted to Miami. Someone I was hoping to see a lot more of this season. But again, due to the amount of players that were being rested last night for this Miami Heat team, which included Pelle Larson, Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Love, Nikola Jovic, as well as Bam Adebayo, Alec Burks, Tyler Hero, and Isaiah Stevens. Johnson, as well as obviously Jaquez and others, got an ample amount of playing time due to the lack of players really available last night, due to them being really rested going into the play-in tournament. Now, Johnson did play well with 17 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 steals. Overall, a great defensive effort, and an overall effort from Johnson, as well as this Miami Heat team that battled in this game against a very, very bad Washington Wizards team. While still being shorthanded, is a game that you expect Miami to go out and win. But again, at this point in the season, it was difficult. This was a wash of a season following the Jimmy Butler entire situation. It was rough to really remain competitive despite going out and getting Wiggins as well as other great pieces for this Miami Heat team. It just really threw this Miami Heat organization off their tracks. Now, they ended at 37-45, and they do have a matchup against the Chicago Bulls in really the farthest to the bottom that you can really get in the sense of getting into the playoffs. I still think it should be just the top 8 teams get in. I don't like the idea of the play-in tournament. I think we're rewarding bad teams for getting in, and Miami would be an example of that. This year, going 37 and 45, 27 games back from first place, and still finding themselves with an opportunity to get into the playoffs. Matching up against the Chicago Bulls team that wasn't much better than this Heat team at 39 and 45 this season. They do have an ability to go out there and beat the Chicago Bulls and move on in this play-in tournament with an opportunity to go on and play in the playoffs and be able to put some wins together and find really that groove that we saw the last 2 to 3 years in the playoffs, where they were overlooked and they were really labeled as a bad team that is just fighting and living, dying by the three, that you don't want to see if they get hot, because again, anyone can beat anybody when you hit a whole lot of threes. But again, this Miami Heat team is going to have to do it a bit differently. They're going to have to go out there and play great defense, rebound the basketball effectively, while also making a good clip of three-point shots if they want to be able to compete with any of these teams in the top half of the Eastern Conference, including the Cavs, the Golden State Warriors, the Boston Celtics, as well as the New York Knicks. Outside of that, I think the Miami Heat have a legitimate chance to go out there and compete. Now, obviously, we wouldn't be matching up with these teams until the second round if that were to happen. And I mean that in the sense of the teams I'm about to list, not the first 3 teams I mentioned. In the Pacers, the Bucks, the Pistons, or the Magic, I believe the Miami Heat would have a legitimate chance. I'm not saying they would be the favorites coming into that into that season, or into that playoff series, but they would have a legitimate fighting chance compared to the matchups in the Knicks, the Celtics, and the Cavs, as they have just been dominant and have steamrolled really all season long. Now, it'll be interesting to see the game plan from Erik Spoelstra and really the overall offensive production that we get from guys like Bam Adebayo, who we've discussed all season long about needing to see him to be more aggressive, especially in really the offensive side of things. As again, defensively, he's great. He's versatile. And with Kel'el Ware next to him, we've seen great moments and great spurts where the defense as well as the offense is excellent. But again, Bam Adebayo offensively has lacked the aggressiveness that we really needed in the sense of the overall point production alongside players like Hero as well as Andrew Wiggins. Now, going into this game against the Chicago Bulls, again, they do have a golden opportunity to really knock off the Bulls and move on in the play-in tournament and get into the playoffs. Again, it's a long shot by all means. It is a long shot. It's nothing that I would be betting on, but it is something that you could have a little faith in the sense that everyone has a chance. These games are the play-in tournament, at least, is best of one. It comes down to that game and that performance that you get. So don't be surprised if Miami goes on a little run here. I'm not expecting them to make the Eastern Conference Finals by any means, but look for them to get into the actual playoffs by winning the play-in tournament and being matched up against the Cavs or the Celtics in that first round. Again, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest.